The clinking of fine silverware was a sharp soundtrack to my humiliation. You still live paycheck to paycheck, Juniper? Melissa's laugh, loud and polished as her designer dress, cut across the table. My parents offered uncomfortable chuckles, not meeting my eyes. I kept my composure, swallowing the bitter taste of shame with a sip of water. The dinner continued, a blur of my sister's boasts and my own quiet endurance. As we finally left, I subtly slipped a folded bill to our waiter, Evan, a young man I'd seen here before, always looking stressed. He glanced at it, his eyes widening slightly. "Thank you, ma'am," he whispered, his gratitude genuine. My family dismissed the moment, but that quiet thank you was a small seed of truth in an evening of lies. The drive home was a silent, rainy vigil. Each tap of rain on the windshield echoed Melissa's mocking words. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, not from anger, but from a deep, old hurt. I arrived at my small, quiet house, a stark contrast to Melissa's sprawling estate. Inside, surrounded by my own hand-painted canvases, the dam finally broke. A single, hot tear traced a path down my cheek. I looked at a photo of my late husband, Michael, his smile forever kind. I wiped the tear away, my jaw setting. "Never again," I whispered into the stillness. The spark of change was lit. Memories, sharp and painful, flooded in. Christmases where Melissa's gifts were new cars while I got a modest sweater. Family vacations to Europe where I was left behind, deemed too busy with her art. Their parents' praise was a spotlight forever fixed on Melissa, her marriage, her house, her apparent success. My achievements, my teaching career, my marriage built on love, were mere footnotes. It was never just about money. It was a lifetime of emotional neglect, of being made to feel secondary, an afterthought in my own family. The dinner was merely the latest chapter in a long story of dismissal. My world was different. Sunlight streamed into my slightly worn classroom, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. The walls were a vibrant tapestry of my students' artwork. "Like this, Ms. Walker?" asked Leo, a shy boy struggling with his landscape. I guided his hand, showing him how to blend the colors for a sunset. "Perfect, Leo." This was my reality, underfunded, overworked, but rich in moments that mattered. I bought supplies with my own money, stayed late to tutor, and received hugs and crayon-drawn thank you cards. It was a life of quiet purpose, a stark contrast to Melissa's loud vanity. A week later, a thick, official-looking envelope arrived. My heart clenched, seeing the return address of a law firm. With hesitant fingers, I opened it. It was legal paperwork regarding my late husband Michael's old business, a small graphic design firm he co-founded with his friend, Daniel Reed. Michael had left when he got sick, choosing time with me over his career. The document stated the company was being restructured. As his sole beneficiary, I was entitled to a share of the assets. A confusing mix of grief and hope swelled within me. A door from the past had just creaked open. I called the number on the letter. Daniel Reed himself answered, his voice warm with recognition and regret. We met for coffee. He explained everything. Michael was a genius, Juniper. He had sketches, concepts for a design software tool. We never filed the patents before he left. Daniel's company, Reed Designs, was now a leader in its field. Those dormant, unfinished patents from Michael's early notebooks were now the foundation of their flagship product. Morally, and I believe legally, a significant portion of this company belongs to you, Daniel said, his eyes sincere. The underdog held leverage she never knew she had. We met again for a proper lunch. Daniel was genuinely apologetic for not tracking me down sooner. The business took off, and I got lost in it. I'm so sorry, Juniper. He laid out a proposal, a lump sum for back royalties and a percentage of future profits from the software. It was a life-changing amount. I looked him straight in the eye. Daniel, I don't want a handout. I want what's fair. What Michael helped build. He nodded, respecting my stance. We agreed to keep the negotiations quiet for now. I needed to understand the full scope of what was happening before the world knew. Meanwhile, Melissa's perfect life was showing cracks. In her massive kitchen, she scrolled through real estate listings on a tablet while her husband, David, stared blankly at his phone. The Henderson account fell through, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. We need a win, Mel. The leverage on the commercial project is tight. Melissa waved a dismissive hand. It's a temporary slump. We'll be fine. But the worry in David's eyes was real. That evening, on the phone with a friend, Melissa laughed. Oh, Juniper? Still scraping by, I'm sure. Some people just don't have the ambition. The irony was thick and tragic. Daniel's call came 2 weeks later. Juniper, you're not going to believe this. A major tech firm just licensed the patent for their new suite. Your share of the initial licensing fee alone is $480,000. The number hung in the air, surreal. There are quarterly royalties on top of that. I was silent, processing. This is real? I finally asked. It's very real, he confirmed. And if you're interested, there's a place for you on the board. Your eye for design is probably better than all of ours combined. I thanked him, my mind reeling. I had to play this carefully. The first thing I did was quiet and profound. I logged into my banking portal and paid off my mortgage. The confirmation screen brought a wave of relief so powerful I had to sit down. The weight of decades of financial anxiety lifted. I didn't tell a soul. But I felt the shift internally. My posture straightened. My smile came easier. I invested in a new wardrobe, not flashy, but simple, elegant pieces that made me feel confident for me, not for anyone else's approval. The power wasn't just in the money, it was in the silence that surrounded it. The invitation to Melissa's annual summer barbecue arrived, a glossy card boasting of her newly renovated, chef-style kitchen. My first instinct was to decline. But the new, steadier version of me decided to go. I wore one of my new, simple linen dresses. When I arrived, Melissa answered the door, her smile faltering for a split second as she took me in. Juniper, you look, well. There was a new light in my eyes, a calmness in my demeanor that she couldn't place. It unsettled her. The game had changed before she even knew we were playing. The barbecue was a masterclass in microaggressions. This dress? Melissa chimed, catching me admiring her hydrangeas. Oh, just a little something from Paris. You look nice, too. Did you finally get a raise at that school? She said that school like it was a contagious disease. I simply smiled. I'm happy, Melissa. That's what matters. Later, I mentioned my meeting with Daniel Reed to my mother. From across the patio, David overheard the name. He froze, his glass halfway to his lips. The color drained from his face. He knew that name, and the knowledge terrified him. That night, David retreated to his home office, phone pressed to his ear. You'll never believe who my sister-in-law is meeting with. Daniel Reed. He listened, his face grim. Yes, the Daniel Reed. The one who rejected my buyout offer 3 years ago. Humiliated me in front of the investors. He paced. If she's connected to him, and she has a stake in his company, he didn't finish the sentence. The stakes were no longer just about family rivalry, they were financial and deeply personal. David now saw Juniper not as a poor relation, but as a direct threat. I continued my life with renewed purpose. I taught my classes, but now I anonymously donated a massive supply of high-quality paints, brushes, and canvases to the school art program. The joy on my students' faces was my reward. Daniel gently pushed me to take an advisory role on his board. Not yet, I told him. I'm still learning. But I was planning. Not for revenge, but for a reckoning. I wanted to build something lasting, something that would honor Michael and help others, a quiet legacy that stood in stark contrast to the hollow showmanship I'd grown up with. Melissa, unnerved by my calm and David's sudden tension, started digging. She called old contacts, dropping Daniel's name casually. When she pieced together that he was the same man who had thwarted her husband's biggest business deal, her blood ran cold. She confronted David in his study. "That's the man, isn't it? The one from the failed acquisition?" David looked up, weary. "Yes. And if Juniper is involved with him, you need to drop this. Don't pick a fight you can't afford, Melissa. For once, just leave it alone." His warning only fueled her panic. A week later, a group text from Melissa lit up our phones. "Family dinner at the Oak Room this Saturday. My treat." It was a blatant power move, a recreation of the scene of her first triumph. The Oak Room was the most expensive restaurant in town. She was trying to reassert her dominance, to push me back into my assigned box. My phone buzzed with a concerned text from my mother. "You don't have to go, dear," I typed back my reply, calm and decisive. "I'll be there." This time I was walking in with my eyes wide open. The Oak Room was all soft lighting and intimidating elegance. Melissa held court, detailing the features of her new luxury car. David, however, was distracted, nervously checking his phone under the table. The meal proceeded, a tense performance. When the bill arrived, Melissa snatched it with a flourish. "We've got this, of course," she said, smirking directly at me. "We know teaching doesn't pay much." I looked at her, my expression serene. I reached out and gently took the leather folder from her hand. "Actually, Melissa, I'll take care of it tonight." The table fell into a stunned silence. I placed my black credit card in the billfold without even glancing at the total. Melissa's mouth was agape. Our parents watched, bewildered. When the waiter returned, it was Evan, the same young man from months ago. He handed me the card and receipt with a respectful nod. Then, he looked directly at me, his voice clear and heartfelt. "Thank you again, Mrs. Walker. I'll never forget what you did. That tip you gave me last year, it was more than a tip. It was my final art school tuition payment. I graduated last month." He was now the assistant manager. The truth, delivered with simple grace, hung in the air. The impact was immediate and devastating. Melissa's carefully constructed facade shattered. Her face flushed a deep, mortified red. Our parents, however, looked at me with a dawning, profound pride I had never seen before. "You paid for his school?" my mother whispered, her eyes glistening. In that moment, Melissa's new car and renovated kitchen meant nothing. Her wealth was a fortress built on sand, while my quiet kindness had changed a life. The spotlight she craved had finally found me, and it revealed her own emptiness. The dominoes began to fall quickly. The following week, the business section of the paper ran a story: "Local real estate firm collapses under debt." David's company was finished. A smaller article noted that Reed Designs had acquired one of his failed development properties. My mother, now in the know, gently informed me that the board had approved the acquisition. I had, in fact, cast the deciding vote. It wasn't an act of vengeance, but a sound business decision. The poetic justice, however, was undeniable. I had won, and I had done it cleanly. My phone rang late one night. It was Melissa. Her voice was thick with tears, stripped of its usual arrogance. "Juniper, it's all gone. The bank is foreclosing on the house. The vacation property is already gone. I don't know what to do." I listened, feeling a pang of sympathy for her pain, but not for her pride. She had built her identity on a foundation that had crumbled. When she finished, I was quiet for a moment. "It's hard, isn't it?" I said softly. "When people think your worth is tied to your bank account." The silence on her end was her admission. I moved with purpose. Through Daniel's firm, I anonymously purchased Melissa's foreclosed lake house. But I didn't keep it for myself. I worked with lawyers and architects to transform it into the Michael Adams Art Retreat, a nonprofit haven for underprivileged children to explore creativity. When the paperwork was final, I told my family, including Melissa. It was the ultimate act of poetic justice, turning a symbol of her failed vanity into a beacon of hope and a tribute to my husband's legacy. The community art gala was a packed, joyful event. I stood on stage, accepting an award for my contributions to arts education. My parents sat in the front row, their faces wet with tears of genuine pride. Melissa was there too, in the back, her head held high but her eyes filled with a complex understanding. She watched as community leaders shook my hand, as my students presented me with their art. She finally saw that true success wasn't about what you owned, but about the impact you made on the world around you. After the ceremony, Melissa found me alone by the refreshments table. "You must be loving this," she said, her voice brittle. "You made me look like a complete fool." I turned to her, my expression not triumphant, but calm. "No, Melissa. You did that yourself. I just finally stopped letting you decide who I am." The anger drained from her face, replaced by a weary shame. For the first time in our lives, there was no audience, no performance. It was just two sisters, and one of them was finally free. Months later, we gathered again for a dinner, this time at the opening gala for my art retreat. The room was filled with laughter, children's art on the walls, and a sense of true purpose. Everyone was toasting me, but my heart was full seeing the kids' excited faces. The catering manager approached, beaming. It was Evan. "Thank you for everything, Juniper," he said, his voice strong. "For believing in people quietly." Melissa, standing nearby, met my gaze and gave a small, genuine smile. I smiled back, a wave of peace washing over me. The circle was complete, not with revenge, but with grace.